In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to make your GoHighLevel website responsive, not only on desktop and mobile, but also on all resolutions in between, starting off with fluid text. So, as you can see, when we click on a headline or a paragraph, the default GoHighLevel unit is set to pixels. So, for our example, our text is 32 pixels. And if we check this preview, as you can see, our text is 32 pixels on absolutely all resolutions, including mobile. So in order to fix this, we just go into mobile mode and change this to 24, let's say. Now we have two different text sizes for our headline. One for mobile, 24 pixels, and once we pass 481 pixels, we go to the desktop size, which is 32 pixels, as you can see right here. But this is all we can achieve by using the default GoHighLevel builder settings. But what if we want something in between? What if we want to change the resolution for iPad, for example, or what if we are looking for a fluid text? Well, we can change, if we go to desktop mode, we can change the unit here to this one, view width, which if we put 3, for example, this represents 3% from the entire view width. So basically the width of your screen. And this will make our text fluid. As you can see, it adjusts based on our screen width, which is really, really cool. Now we also have this here, so let's change it because I want to show you a limitation of this and how we can use an even more advanced trick here to make really, really good text. So as you can see, we can scale the text based on the view width, but on mobile the text is extremely tiny and not readable. So how do we fix this? Well, we can go into the custom CSS and add these properties, especially this one. As you can see, we have created a class and we have set the font size to this value right here. Clamp to rem for view width and again for rem. First of all, what is this unit right here? This unit basically multiplies the number in front with the default font size. This one is very useful if you want to make a website accessible, because the default browser font size is 16 pixels. We can also remove this because it will natively be 16 pixels, and this will be basically 4 times 16 pixels. And this unit scales with the user's preferences. So for example, if someone increases the browser font size, the default browser font size to 20 pixels, then all your texts will adjust based on their preferences. So this is very important for accessibility. And we can check this by changing the default font size ourselves. Right here, font size 20 pixels, for example. But let's not do that just yet, because I want to show you what this does. So this function basically adds the preferred font size, which is this one, the exact one that we used in the UI, but then we added a minimum size and a maximum size. So the minimum size will be 32 pixels because it's 2 times the default font size, and the max size will be 4 times the default size. So let's copy the class here and add it to our text. Now, as you can see, this is our text with the maximum size. It scales down, but just a little, because we don't want it to scale below that 32 pixels, that 2 rem. And of course you can play around with this, for example 1.5 if you want to have an even smaller size for mobile, for example. And this, as you can see, scales down, but not that much. And this function is extremely powerful if you want to achieve responsiveness on your GoHighLevel website. And this works extremely well on absolutely all resolutions. And of course, if we change the default font size to 20 pixels, as you can see, even the website builder changes because we just adjusted the default font size. And even GoHighLevel uses that unit, the RAM unit. So that's why these RAM units are very important. Of course, you can use pixels if you want, but they won't scale that well for users who modify the default font size due to accessibility reasons. So this is how we create fluid text in GoHighLevel. The next thing that I want to show you is the sizing for sections. For example, this section has the class test section, and as you can see, I set the height to 100 view height. So 100 view height units, which is basically 100% of your screen height. So if your screen has a small height, then this section will be smaller. Another very important unit that helps you create responsive websites. And now another extremely important aspect of responsive websites has to do with media queries. So let's just save this, and I want to delete the class for this one, for the text, and just set up a normal, let's say, pixel thing here, 24. So now you notice that as I scale down, after I cross 481 pixels, the layout changes. So this one right here, the mobile mode for GoHighLevel, lets you edit websites for resolutions of maximum 480 pixels. And from then on, it's basically a gray area. You cannot modify what happens here within the GoHighLevel website builder up until here, 767. As you can see, the layout changes, and from now and onwards you have the desktop mode. But what happens in between? Basically, you cannot edit what happens here within the GoHighLevel website builder unless you use the media queries, and I added a few of them here. For example, this one controls what happens when our screen has a minimum width of 481 and a maximum width of 767. Then we have another one, max width 480. This is specifically for mobiles and is the equivalent of this mobile mode from GoHighLevel. And this one, min width 768 pixels, is the equivalent of the desktop mode from the UI builder. So this one right here is very important. Of course, you can play around with this with different max sizes. For example, if you want to have something that covers both mobile mode and up until 767, so you would do something like max width 767 pixels, right? So this will basically cover everything up until here. You got a point, right? So what can we do with this? Well, if you look closely at this, we have, let's just look at this first section. We have a padding, 20 pixels padding left and right. On desktop, when we go into iPad resolution, let's say, the padding disappears and it only comes back when we go into mobile mode. But let's say we want the same padding for all resolutions as well. So we can add the padding by going like this, and we need a double class in order to override the default GoHighLevel paddings. So for sections, it is C section. This is the default class that GoHighLevel adds. And we can add padding left 20 pixels. And of course, let's not forget about the important tag, because we want to overwrite what GoHighLevel has. And this is exactly how we do it. And if we click save and save once again, you'll notice that we just overwrote the paddings here. So now we have the same 20 pixels padding on all resolutions, including the iPad resolution, which it's quite hard to modify, if not impossible, using the basic GoHighLevel builder settings. So yeah, as you can see, and the same thing applies to the columns as well. As you can see, the column here has 20 pixels on mobile padding. On iPad, let's say, has 5 pixels because that's the default one, and then comes back to 20 on desktop. So I just added a class, it's test row, so we can just select this, duplicate it. Actually, we don't need to duplicate it. We can add a comma here and add test row dot c row. C row is for rows, C section for sections, C row for rows, and you guessed it, C column for the columns. And I'll show you in just a second. So as you can see, we have 20 pixels padding, and of course on this resolution for iPad 20 pixels as well, and then on mobile 20 pixels once again. And the same thing happens here. As you can see, we have padding, and if we reduce the width, we have no padding on this resolution until we go into mobile. So let's do that. This one is test column. So if we go here, add a comma, add test column dot c column, because again, this is the default class that we get from GoHighLevel. We save, we refresh, and again, we added the padding for this resolution as well. So this is exactly how you use media queries to optimize your layout for absolutely all resolutions, which is very, very, very important if you want to create responsive GoHighLevel websites. Now, another trick that I often use when it comes to column and grid layouts. For example, we have these 3 columns right here. We created some tiles, we duplicated them, and all of a sudden we have something, I don't know, something like this. We have 3 columns that are not equal, and we just want 3 equal columns. And what do? We can just drag them and just make them visually look like they're of equal size, but we can just add a class to each of them, go into the custom CSS and use the percentage unit. For example, we set the width to 33%, 33.33, something like that, right? Basically 100% of the parent, which is the row, divided by 3, or divided by the number of columns you have, right? And all of a sudden, when you click save, as you can see, all columns have the same width. And this unit is obviously responsive, so it scales down as you scale the screen, as you can see, and it keeps the columns the same width. So again, a really, really important aspect when it comes to mobile responsiveness. Now, another cool that I left for the end of this video, because I can't really show it to you here, has to do with the height of the sections. So if you use this one, for example, height 100 VH units, you can use, instead of VH, you can use DVH, which is dynamic view height units. And this one is actually more powerful because it updates dynamically, because it updates the height dynamically, and works really, really well on mobile. And you can actually test it because it takes into account the navigation bar. You know, on Safari, for example, you can hide the address bar, and then this section will become full screen, but then if the address bar is visible, the height of the section will actually take into consideration that bar and will make your section a tiny bit smaller. So this is actually better, more advanced, but a cool and neat trick that you can use. Now, if you don't want to build GoHighLevel websites from scratch, you can check out my GoHighLevel website library, which has pre-built components that are already optimized for all resolutions, and you can just mix and match them, as you can see in this demo website right here, and create really cool GoHighLevel websites for your clients. So if you want to get access to this library, check out the first link in the description. And if you're curious to see the best sections that I have in this library, then check out this video right here.